backed by popular demand. This is the Turnbucklepad Podcast on YouTube.com. Respect wrestling or get out. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fans of all ages, I'd like to welcome you back to the Turnbucklepad Podcast. My guest today, he's been in the business for 27 years. He has been up and down the roads everywhere, and I truly believe this is one of those influential figures, or a leader room locker, you could say, that you can go to help better yourself, and he'll give you the correct criticism that you need for you to be better. Please welcome my guest, Beast.
How you doing, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good, Beast. How you doing?
Hanging.
How's the wrestling career treating you?
It's going pretty good. I've been blessed in what I've been doing. I've been up and down the road of travel the world. I've run great in my life. Some have passed and some are still alive. But it's just a great blessing.
Now, you said we know you've been in the business for 27 years, so I can only imagine that you've seen the evolution in wrestling from its lowest point to its highest point. What are some of the good and bad things you've noticed?
Well, with me, I wasn't what you call a superstar. I was what they call a topper, the beat-up guy. But I learned a lot of, some of the stuff backstage. I learned a lot of good professionalism, wisdom, and knowledge from all the veterans that paved the way of us, the younger guys out there today.
Do you think, because wrestling's kind of been on a roller coaster ride within the last 10, 20 years. It hit a high point, it would hit a bubble, then it hit a low point, it would stay like that for a while, and then back at the high point again. Where do you think it's at right now?
Right now, I think the upper part about it is that the indie scenes are picking up much better than what they used to. There's a million independent wrestling organizations, but I figure, and I look at it now, that a lot of the independent scenes are picking up better than your top name, in the bigger federation.
Right. There seems to be this new attitude with these guys that want to learn the business, and they're taking it. They're so hungry. It's actually kind of impressive, and it gives you kind of hope that wrestling's still going to remain special. But on the flip side of the coin, because kayfabe is, it's not around anymore, it kind of sours it a little bit, because then you got guys coming in who think they can just do it because they watched for a few years.
Yeah, that's with social media and all this, it really killed the business. So far as like you said, kayfabe. A lot of the newer guys want to come in and say, "Oh, I watched this on TV," and when you ask who you trained by, they say, "Well, I learned from TV." Then when you actually get them in the ring and wrestle them one-on-one, it's like, don't even come and play in my sandbox because you don't even belong in the sport.
Yeah. When you came into the business and you started out, what are some of the differences you see now in the training today compared to the way you started when you trained?
Wow. Well, when I trained, it was more of like a boot camp. It was more intensifying. I didn't actually step in a wrestling ring until 3 years after my training. All I did was set up the ring, check the ropes, rode around with the ring from state to state, country to country, and set up the ring. And once the event was over, tear down the ring, barricades in the trailer, and head to the next town. So that's what I was called paying my dues. So when my time had came, they was like, "Get your gear, you're having your first match." And I was like, "Huh? What?" They was like, "You've paid your dues after these 3 years. It's time for you to go out there and show the fans what you got."
What was the first big match that you ever had?
My first huge match was the Barbarian at the Cobo Arena in Detroit, Michigan for WCW.
Wow.
Right then and there, that was in front of 10,000 fans, and that was very, very, very nerve-wracking for me. I've, seen big crowds on TV, but I'm like, okay. And when you actually go out there and see all those fans and they're screaming your name, it's like,
I can understand that. Now, you said you were around in the WCW. What year were you involved with them?
Back in 1983, that's
No,
when my younger brother was just first born. I was doing ring crew for him, and that's when we were just starting to collaborate over from the NWA to WCW. That's when Crockett was selling it over.
okay. Now, when did you leave WCW?
Man brought the company out.
So you were on board with them the whole way through.
Yes, I was.
Wow.
I was
So
all the way almost to the end.
when you,
Like I said, I learned a lot of respect. I got to hang out. I learned a lot of personal things from Harley Race, with his mentoring and towards me, helping me out. Lex Luger, Flair, the late Chris Benoit, the late Eddie Guerrero, Road Warrior Hall. Those guys sat down with me and talked to me and said, "This is how it should go. This is what you need to do." And then as everything transpired, that's when I got a chance to meet, Stevie Ray, Booker T, all the newer upcomer guys, and they sat down with me, and it was just, and the Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, they actually, sat down with me and said, "Hey, look," and all that knowledge, I was just soaking it in, and I gained so much high respect from a lot of those guys. I still talk with them once in a blue moon, but they have the utmost respect for me, just, the way as I do for them. And that's one thing that has somewhat lost this business when you get the newer guys that come in. They don't have the respect factor, They see a bunch of guys sitting around and they'll just come into a locker room and they'll take only the people that they know and then venture off somewhere else. They don't acknowledge veterans and stuff like that.
there's
And it's
no
kind of sad.
there's not enough humility.
Right. Back in the day, if I was to, go in a locker room and not introduce myself to everyone in that locker room, excuse my French, I would get knocked on my ass because that was called disrespect. You would get totally knocked on your ass, like, get the hell out of our locker room because you don't belong here.
Yeah, yeah. When you walk into someone else's locker room, it's just like walking into someone else's house. You show some respect.
Right, right.
No, Beast, let me ask you a question because I've been saving this question for someone with experience, and I believe you're perfect for this. Because of the way wrestling's evolved, where do you think they stopped teaching people when they're training to be a ring general? A locker room leader, things of those qualities that help build a brand to be stronger. Where do you think that kind of faded away?
Several years ago, man, it's I at first when I started seeing in different locker rooms, the fire in me just started burning out because there were so many chiefs and not enough Indians. Everybody wanted to do this, and do that, and nobody would want to listen. And it's like, guys, and I would speak up, and then they would just look at me, and they wouldn't follow. It's like, if you do it this way, you'll see a better product. And they're like, okay, and it never happened. And after that, I just, how do you call it? I faded myself away. I just didn't want to be around their promotion anymore because I knew that they would fall on their face. And I've seen some companies really fall on their face to where, I have a huge fan base, and I would tell all my fans, hey, look, I'm a, be here at this event, and I would bring in like 40, 50 people, and once I start feeling that fire, not in the locker room, and it starts burning out, I'm like, okay, it's actually time for me to leave. And my fans like, well, are you going to be booked on the next event? And I'm like, no. It's like, what's wrong? I said, well, due to personal circumstances, I'm not allowed to stay, but I will no longer be at that organization. I wish them the best in ever. And from that point on, people start closing their doors because they realize that the fans want to see a quality product.
Yeah, yeah. So when that started fading out, is that when the whole idea of Spot Fest and not training yourself to look like a wrestler really started overtaking things?
Yes, my thing is I hate spot monkeys. Flipping, flopping, and doing all this. I'm gonna be honest. I'm 44 years old. I'll be 45 next year, and I'm still wrestling. I am still wrestling. Yes, my body hurts, but I still travel. Like I said, I've been to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Palm State, Puerto Rico. So I've toured. I know what it's like to be in that square circle and wrestle. And people look at me. Okay, here's a 380-pound guy. He doesn't have the body of a god. People don't look at me as that. I have a character. I go out and I tell a story, and that's the reason why I get the bookings that I get. People, promoters call me and book me.
Yeah, you're not calling them; they're calling you.
Right. I have a look that people want to see, and for me being 380 pounds, I move like a cheetah in the ring. I'm very quick on my feet.
I've seen your work. I have seen your matches. You are a fast big man.
God has blessed me with the talent that I have, and I try to tell these young guys, for example, I just wrestled this one kid. He was like 6'3", and he was wrestling for the championship belt, and the promoter wanted us to go 25 minutes, and he started to laugh. He's like, "Sure, big man can, go 25 minutes?" And everyone in the locker room got really quiet, and I just nodded my head and I looked at him, and I just said, "Okay." Went out there, we went 30 minutes, and got back to the locker room. Here this kid is passed on the floor, breathing heavily, and I come back whistling, and I sit in the chair and say, "Now, who do you think is in better shape?" And after that point, he was like, "Can you teach me how did you do it? How?" I said, "I know how to wrestle. I know how to tell a story in my match." And he was just amazed at what the knowledge that he learned from me. He was like, "I will never disrespect a vet again." He said, "I'll just keep my mouth shut and learn." And some of these guys, like I said, they just don't understand what it takes. Like a lot of the guys get blood, sweat, and tears, and that's what it takes. But you don't have to be a spot monkey and flip here and flip there. That's why a lot of these young guys get in it, and then 2 or 3 big years later, they're retired. They're so-called retired. You're
Yeah.
not retired because you're not a veteran. You're quitting the business because all you did was flip here, spot monkey this.
Yeah,
You're not retiring from the business.
I've witnessed that on countless occasions from multiple indie guys. One time they're retiring and they're back at the next show. Then when things don't go their way, they're retiring again. Then they're back at the next show, and it gets repetitive and it gets annoying after a while.
Yeah.
And you're right. When it comes to the indies, you're not retiring. You're quitting. You can't
Right.
retire from something you never made it to.
Right.
Now let me ask you a question, Beast, because this has been kind of posing a question on my mind. Because now, one of the things that I see that I kind of don't like to watch are shows like Total Divas and this Breaking Point shows, things that show the business behind the scenes on TV. I mean, we know the business was special when there was kayfabe because no one knew, and now it's all out there like a cheap hooker with her legs spread wide open, and there's really no way to keep the mystique or the specialness of the business anymore. Where do you think, in the midst of all that, that could be corrected to where wrestling can get its mystery back?
If people actually, my thing is, you would have to have people believe in your character, and a lot of people believe in my character. They don't, if they see, like I said, I have a Google Gobble full of fans, and one funny story, I was at a pilot eating in a restaurant, and some fans had recognized me. They were legitimately scared to come up and talk to me because they believe that's the beast there. This is this crazy dude. We're not going up to him. You see what he does in the ring. I heard him talk. Like, "No, you go ask for. No, I'm not touching. Did you see what he did last month?" And that's what And I just sit out there with other wrestlers, and we're laughing because it's that they hear this thing like they're listening. And I give them that. What my thing is, I get inside their brain. It's psychology. That's where a lot of this business has lost. People forget how the psychology of the business of wrestling is. I'm not a sports entertainer. If I was a sports entertainer, I'll be I'll join Susan Lucci. She's never won an Emmy or an Oscar. That's an entertainer. Me, I'm a wrestler. I'm not a sports entertainer.
Yeah. Yeah, when they had to change that name due to legal rights from wrestling to sports entertainment, that was kind of like an insult to all the guys who worked so hard to be a pro wrestler. Then to just flip it like that, kind of
Yeah,
discredited a lot of people.
so even my family, they know about the business. They're like, you're not an entertainer. You don't have someone. You don't sit in the chair with your name on it, and someone put makeup on you and paint your nails and putting this. It's like, no, I'm a rep, and I have my battle scars to prove it. And back in the day, you had to be legit, a tough person. Don't just get in it because, oh, I can get fame and fortune and make $1 million. No, you have to pay your dues. If you want to make a name for yourself, produce a great product, and people will see what you do. If you want to follow your dream, reach for the stars. But if you just want to do it because, oh, I can make money and people, no, don't get out of it because it's not for you.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've talked with many guests, and I've had multiple conversations with you and with other people outside the show. And it's just like almost anything you want to put your heart towards, make sure it's what you're passionate about and you want to soak it up in every aspect that you can. So you can better
Right,
yourself and learn it better. A
right,
lot of these guys don't do it. They're just like they're chewing the meat and throwing out the bones. But in this particular sense, you need all of it.
right. And my thing is, my two best friends that I learned some stuff from is Nacho Barrero and Jumbo Jimmy. They wrestled back in the days with Dick the Bruiser and, Bruiser Brody and all those guys back in the AWA days. And they've seen my experience in the ring, and they love me. And to this day, I still associate, I talk with those guys. And it's like, wow, you're still doing it. It's like, geez. It's like, we thought you were, leaving. I'm like, no. I said, it's in my heart. He's like, good for you. He's like, teach some of these young punks, what it is. I wrestled for a company that was actually televised. It was called the American Wrestling Federation. I, myself, and a few other guys, I teamed up with this guy named Pretty Boy Floyd, and we went against the original Samoan SWAT team, Samu and Fatu. And when we went against those guys, I can legitimately say that they are the stiffest MFers in the wrestling business today. But I took a valuable lesson, and I took my beating like a man. And at that point, everybody had the utmost perspective, like, holy cow.
Yeah, those are usually the signs in the golden days that you got training, you got your ass kicked and broken down and beaten in so many different ways, and you still kept coming back for more. That showed that you had something special that would benefit the business.
Right, you had the heart pass, and I didn't, even when I went to my locker room, I didn't cry, I didn't bitch. I was like, okay, a job well done. Even a promoter came and said, wow. Like, you have anything to say? I said, thank you for having me here. I said, can you please let the Samoan SWAT team? It was a great honor to fulfill a dream of mine. He's like, you're not crying or nothing? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm not going to show my emotions in the locker room. When I got home, yes, I was sore for 3 days, but hey, I took my beat like a man. And, some of these, I call them pretty boys, some of these pretty boys that get in the business and, they get a chop or get a forearm in the back. Oh, I'm hurt, I'm bruised. Then you don't need to be in the business. Pay $15, $20 to see a real wrestler. You can just sit back and be a fan.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to be a worker and still feel like a fan by watching someone else's work.
Right.
Well, Beast, we got a question for you, and I know I already explained to you what the question is, but due to this very influential and enlightening conversation, I'm going to change the question just for you. What advice would you give to someone that would want to start their own company?
My advice is to just find the right wrestlers, run a great run a good product, promote your wrestlers, get people that can actually wrestle. Don't hire none of these so-called wrestlers. Have them send a professional 8x10 photo where they were trained at. This is how we had to do back in the day. We had to send in a professional 8x10 who you were trained by how many years, where you traveled, and a promotional DVD to the promoters and show them your work with the music, show them what you have. Don't just say, well, go to this my social media thing. No, send the information to them so they can review it themselves.
Golden words. A lot of people now, they think that just because they know how wrestling works, they can do it. It still applies from promoter or being a wrestler. You have to do your homework and you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, Beast Man, we really thank you for coming on to the show. This has really been a tremendous honor, and I think you're the first person we've had this season that's been from WCW and all over the world practically. It's been a really great honor. We've learned a lot, and fans, if you ever get a chance to see Beast perform, go see him and be scared. Be scared. Until then, Beast, we really thank you for coming on. Fans, I'm your host, Mike Stover, and this has been my guest, Beast, and we're out.